Good morning, everyone. Okay, welcome you all to another new day. We continue our book reading this morning, Advanced Selling Strategy by Brian Tracy. We are in chapter 10, which is the last chapter for our book reading, talking about closing the sales, the end game of sales. Yesterday, we looked at the basics of handling questions. How do you handle questions when they are being brought up by clients or your customers? We also looked at the law of six, which is where you categorize the objections or questions that are being asked by customers and put them down and write the major, rather, write minor answers or minor questions to these basic questions that customers are asking. So I categorize them into six. One is price, two is performance, three is follow-up service, four is competition, five is support, and six is warranty and assurance. So the questions and objections that your clients and customers will or might ask you might come under any of these main questions that have been written down here. So under the basics of handling questions, it taught us yesterday that there are objections and there are situations. There are objections and there are conditions. Objections are those things that a customer or those situations that will not want a customer to buy, and conditions are also those things so that won't make a customer to want to buy. For objections, you have solutions, while for conditions, you might not have solutions to their problems or the asked questions. So today on page 360 of chapter 10, closing the sales, the end game of selling, we're looking at timing your answer. Timing your answer. Said, when should you deal with an objection or provide an answer? This depends on many things, but there are basically 5 different times when it is correct to answer a question or objection posed by the prospect. The first and usually the best is before the objection comes up in the first place. This is called the preemptive strike. If you know that you're going to get a certain objection in virtually every sales conversation, you bring up the objection in advance and kick the chair out from under it so that it is no longer sitting in the back of the customer's mind, interfering with his concentration during your sales presentation. For example, if your product is expensive relative to your competitors and you know that the questions of price is going to come up as a major objection, you will start your sales conversation by saying something like, Mr. Prospect, before I begin, I want to tell you that our product is one of the most expensive on the market. Yet, in spite of our price, hundreds or thousands of people like you purchase this product every single year. Would you like to know why? With this type of preemptive strike, the prospect cannot say later, your price is higher than your competitors. You already told him it was. We worked with a large telecommunication company not long ago whose sales were down. The salespeople were frustrated. They were demoralized and angry and continually complaining about the company's price policy. The sales organization was convinced that the sales were down because their prices were the highest in the market. In addition, their competitors had taken out ads in the paper showing price comparisons. So we taught them the preemptive strike. We taught them to deal with the price question up front and then focus all of their efforts on answering the question. Why do many companies buy these products every single year? When the sales people started doing this, their sales jumped to 165% of quota within 30 days. They start making sales to prospects who initially said, I know your prices are the highest in the market, I am not interested. One woman walked out of a cold call that had started with these words, carrying a $17,000 deposit on a $54,000 deposit system. She reported that the entire process took 45 minutes. Whatever your major objection is, be prepared to hit it hard up front. Grab it and slam it in the mat. Eliminate it as an objection so that the prospect cannot come back later and use it as a reason for not going ahead. The second time to answer objection is when they come up early in the presentation. Some objection needs to be answered immediately, especially objections about the integrity of your company or the quality of your product or service. You cannot proceed with the presentation with these questions left unanswered, rattling around in the prospect's mind. You must deal with them straightforwardly and completely and to the customer's complete satisfaction. For example, you sit down with the prospect and he opens by saying, I've heard that your company doesn't honor its warranties and that a lot of your products don't work once they are installed. Be prepared. When you hear something like this, you must handle it in a positive and professional manner. You must respect the customer's concern, then present convincing evidence to show that he is misinformed. He only has partial information or his information is completely wrong. Only when he's satisfied with your explanation can you proceed. The third time to answer an objection is during the presentation. When you've presented your product often enough, you can anticipate certain objections coming up when you make certain statements or show certain elements of your product. You should be prepared to answer these questions convincingly with the very next step of your presentation. Anticipating and preparing for a customer's objection is makes you look like a real expert at what you're doing. If you anticipate an objection and you're prepared to answer it, but the customer doesn't bring it up, you can often say something like, at this point, many people ask how it is that we can make such a claim. Here is the basics for our statement. The customer will be very impressed. You will have removed an obstacle that might have come up later in the presentation and derailed the sale. You also have built your credibility with the customer and increased his confidence in doing business with you. The fourth time to answer an objection is later in the presentation. Many objections are smoke screens or casual questions. They don't require a full court press. You can simply say, may I come back to that in a moment? I think you will be very happy with the answer. If the prospect says, sure, you can proceed with your presentation, making a mental note to touch out that point after you have clearly explained the main benefit of your product. The fifth time to answer an objection is never. If an objection arises early in the presentation, but it is not mentioned again, let it pass. Very often prospects object or ask questions just to prove to you that they are paying attention. But the objection is not consequential. If the prospect doesn't much mention it later, it usually means that it was unimportant and he has forgotten about it. Remember, in selling, timing is everything. There's a right time and a wrong time for everything you say. There is too soon and too late. As a professional salesperson, your job is to determine the time and to present your information and argument in a logical sequence. With each building on the other, stay loose and only answer objections when the time is right. Okay, so this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning on timing your answer. It has given us 5 ways when to answer questions, objection questions when handling or when having a sales conversation with your client or with your customer. So the first time to answer these questions is when having a sales conversation with your prospect. So before the objection comes up, it is important to have already answered the question, because they might have these questions in mind, but they won't say it immediately. So you should answer them before this objection comes up. Like where we read yesterday in the basics of handling questions and the law of the six, it categorized these questions into six. Questions may come up in regards to pricing. Questions may come up in regards to performance, follow up, your competitor, your service, your warranties, and assurance. So before all these questions come up, it is important to answer them. Like we here now, I know we have questions in regards to price. So in case you are meeting any new customer and questions in regards to price, or before the price comes up, so if you just tell them, okay, this is why our product are expensive, or this is why it is at we sell it at so price and stuff like that, then you can go forward to tell them about the quality of the extension, where it is being produced or where it is being manufactured, sorry, and how many companies or shopping malls are using it and how they buy in large quantity. This will eliminate doubt from their mind and make them to go ahead with the purchase. So the second time to answer objection is when they come up earlier in your presentation, when they come up in your sales conversation with your client or with your prospect. Maybe the first thing they will tell you, like you give an example here. So maybe they will talk about your warranty, of how maybe you're not true to your warranty. You said your product is 10 years, and how come most of your products don't last, for 10 years, in a few months they're spoiled and stuff like that. Then you can go ahead to explain the warranty and guarantee processes with them. Then the third answer of objection is during the presentation, when sales might come up, when sales questions might come up. So during that presentation, you can also answer objection question within that period. Then the fourth time is later in the presentation. All these are times when objections can come up. And as we've read through, it has taught us how we'll be able to answer all these questions. So this is a brief summary of our book reading for this morning. Thank you.